I'm in Monaco, so not a bad place to be.
I spent my life doodling, and when I was very young, I remember I'd give lessons. I think I was about 5 or 6, give lessons to my friends. I don't want you to be offended when I send you the photographs of her. And I said, well, how do you mean? And he said, because we're kind of into bondage, and would it be okay to sort of do a bondage theme? So I was like, oh God, okay, fine.
It's going to be higher value. And then yellowish brown there's some yellow, but not too much, but browns are dominant, and brownish yellow, there's both colours, but yellows are dominant, but there's some brown.
Okay.
So this is why.
What did he just say?
This is why we send it to the CIA.
Trial.
Welcome everybody to another episode of RM Sotheby's Car Show. Thank you for joining us. I have been speaking to Anna-Louise Felsted, well-known automotive artist who's got some of her work on display here in Monaco at our auction. And later in the episode, I'm going to be talking to some colleagues from Sotheby's about some very special jewellery that belongs to Dame Shirley Bassey, no less. So enjoy the episode. I'm in Monaco, so not a bad place to be, and we did a live stream that's already, you may have already seen, because we've got our auction and it's the second day, day 2, and as well as lots of lovely cars, we've got lots of lovely art, and depending on which camera is pointing in what direction, you can probably see some of it behind me, and all of the stuff that's surrounding me at the moment is painted by Anna-Louise Felsted, who from this moment on in this interview, I'm just going to call you AL.
Correct, well done.
Is that okay?
Yes,
okay.
It's easier, shorter.
It is shorter, so AL.
Yes.
You are quite, and I suspect quite a lot of the listeners or viewers to this are going to be somewhat familiar with your work, but you're sort of one of an elite little community of people that have built up a reputation for doing car-related art, but kind of more specifically latching into sort of the motoring heritage and classic cars and that sort of stuff. So, but before we specifically get into that, let's go back to AL at school. So AL at school was clearly enjoying art, yeah? You were just doodling on bits of paper and people were going, oh, you're quite good at that. Is that how it happened?
I spent my life doodling, and when I was very young, I remember I'd give lessons. I think I was about 5 or 6, give lessons to my friends because they were all drawing stick men, and I was showing them that actually people had necks and wrists and ankles and things. So I was that child. And then I think my head took a photograph of what I did, or put some painting up on the wall in the staff room and said, she's going to be famous one day. So that's how it all sort of started. And then my dad used to bring back diaries from work, and I'd just fill them with drawings from my imagination. And then I went to school in Sussex, and I remember the headmaster just had this huge set of keys, and he opened the art room, and it was like a choir started singing. I was looking at balsa wood aeroplanes hanging from the ceiling. There was a CDT workshop, there was a pottery workshop. The art studio was just insane. I just basically spent my entire life painting and drawing and doing pottery, and just loved it.
Did you do any maths, English?
Hated
history?
Maths. I managed to scrape through with a C in GCSE, but I amazed myself. But yeah, history of art was my sort of thing. I love doing that.
And the thing is, and it's a bit like playing a musical instrument, which incidentally I can't do either, and I can't draw for toffee, and I kind of feel that I could sit down with a teacher and really try to learn to paint or draw, and it would never happen because it's something innate, isn't it? You can't. I'm sure that you can learn and you can practice and get better.
Yeah.
But if you kind of feel like you're born without an artistic
if you're not
bone in your body,
interested in something, it's very hard to get good at it, I suppose. And so I think we all have an ability. It's whether or not you're interested in sort of progressing that. When I look back at some of my early drawings, I'm slightly horrified, but we all have to get better, and it's just the amount of hours you put into something. Obviously you get better over time.
But but as you were saying, you had friends at school that were just drawing stick people.
Yes.
And there are plenty of 50-year-olds that are still drawing stick people because they've never learnt to do anything other than that.
Yeah.
And you obviously, from the youngest age, weren't
Well, it was
drawing
actually my
stick.
father who originally said, people don't actually look like that, AL, and he started doing little drawings, and so then I'd get these A4 sheets of paper, printing paper, and I'd roll them, put them in half, and then I'd do my drawing on the left, or they would do their drawing on the left. I'd say no, I'd be correcting them, as I told you, terrible child. But yeah, it took a long time to, as I say, those early drawings, I suppose they were quite advanced for someone my age, but I was just obsessed. All I wanted to ever do was be an artist. And sometimes I think when I graduated from the RCA, there was that moment of fear of like, how am I going to make a living doing this? It's quite terrifying, because all everyone ever says is, you're never going to make any money. Artists are poor and they're staying in a garret, starving. So it's not great for the confidence. But I think if you just have a belief and you just keep going, then it can work. I think you just have to try.
It's interesting actually that you say that, because my son is been at a music academy and is very good at piano and guitar, but he hated, and still does hate, practicing. He likes playing for his own amusement, but doesn't really like practicing in sort of an academic way. And as I said to him, I said, the thing is, if you actually want to earn a living playing an instrument, you can't just be adequate. You've got to be, if you're asking somebody to pay you to play an instrument, then they're expecting something really, really good, otherwise you're going to be busking in the street, and that's how you're going to make money. And I guess it's somewhat the same with art, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I suppose also marketing and what you paint and how you market your work and how people get to see it, in a way is almost as important as the work itself, right?
100%.
Or is that,
100%. It's not just about painting. I mean, you talk about your son, I was actually going to be a professional singer. I was a member of the National Youth Choir of Great Britain. I was head of my chamber choir at school, and I got into a position where I had an interview at Blindbourne. But I knew, an audition, sorry, but I knew that I also had my interview at St Martin's, and it was that time when my tutor said, if you get this audition, will you take it? And I said, no, I'll go to St Martin's. He said, well, don't take the audition then. I suppose the difference was with singing, although I loved it, a bit like your song, I loved singing, but the academic side of it, the sight reading, it just was so difficult. I found it so hard. I don't think I'm dyslexic, but there's definitely some sort of learning disability, I think, that I've always struggled with. And the art side of things was just so much easier for me. And I also felt like I was my own boss, because obviously in a choir, you're being directed, you're basically at someone else's mercy. Are you going to be put in that part? Or with an art career, yes, it's much harder, but it's all down to you. So I don't have to rely on anyone. Everyone that I rely on is basically me and my suppliers now, of course. But I just found that the art thing for me was the right direction to go in. But I mean, it's all creative. It's just where your passion lies, where your interests are, I suppose. Yeah, and I suppose art is a very free form of expression. And I mean, I know music is or can be, but you've kind of got to play the notes in the right order. Yeah.
There's a structure to
and
music.
If you're in a choir and you sing, you can sing beautifully, you can have a gorgeous voice, but if you can't sight read and you screw it up, that's not cool, you know. And I just hated that pressure. And I was always the one being pulled up by the conductor saying, AL, got that wrong again. So I couldn't handle it. So, I mean, obviously art is very subjective. And so people could say, oh, the cars that AL paints, the nuts and bolts aren't quite right. I'm not interested in creating a photographic representation at all. It's about capturing the atmosphere, the energy, the speed, the motion. They're very whimsical. And, I don't want anyone, I mean, obviously you're always going to get critics in whatever you do in any creative field, but I do what I'm happy with. It's very different to getting perfect pictures and getting the right notes.
So before we move on to, obviously we're recording a podcast that's called The Car Show, so the fact that you paint cars is the strong connection here, and we can also explain, we'll talk a little bit more in a moment or two about what you're doing here and a painting that you're going to be doing a little later today, which is all really interesting stuff. But let's just go let's go back to school again. Did you grow up with any interest in cars whatsoever? What age were you when you painted your first car?
I was dating a guy who I think was racing an MG. I think it was somewhere like Brands Hatch, and I remember doing some sketches then. I think I may have done some car drawings during my GCSEs, but basically when I was at Central St Martin's, I was a bit concerned because my painting, I always found it very easy to draw from life, from something that was in front of me, but I found it really difficult painting from my imagination, and that stressed me out a lot because a lot of my friends were painting beautiful drawings or illustrations from their head, and I can't do that. And
or like a landscape.
Yeah,
but they're
or just sort of just magical drawings and of people or places, and I was stressed out because I can't do that. I have to see what's in front of me. I'm not very good at drawing from my imagination. And my tutor said, listen, don't worry, there's this amazing artist called Linda Kitson, who is the official Falklands War artist, and she was commissioned by, I think, the Times to go out to the Falklands and paint. And her drawings are amazing, her charcoal drawings. So when I realised that there were artists out there who did reportage work, I thought, okay, that's something that I could do. So long story short, I basically managed to get myself on board HMS Cornwall with the Royal Navy for a week at sea.
Cool.
And I was painting these guys in their uniforms. It was a terrible, horrible experience. I hated every moment.
Oh.
And yeah, as you can imagine. And anyway, after about 3 or 4 years of doing this, and I was, I had an amazing flight in a Harrier jump jet. I went on HMS Illustrious with the Royal Navy at sea, sort of flown in by Sea King helicopter and dumped on the ship to do all these paintings. It was great and I loved it, but they were quite hard to sell. It's quite niche. So I was dating a guy who knew a chap called James Wood, who does a lot of historic racing. I'm sure you know James. And this James said to me, why don't you come to Monaco and paint cars? And he started sending me all these pictures of him racing in Monaco, and I thought, this guy is just, showing off. He's like, no, seriously, AL, I think you should. Anyway, I didn't do it. But then a chap said to me, AL, if you want to do some painting, I could auction it off on my yacht in Monaco during the Grand Prix. And suddenly it was just somebody else saying the same thing. And I was like, called James and said, I've been asked to go to Monaco to paint at the Grand Prix. And he just laughed and said, you will not get any access during the F1. As I said before, AL, come to the Historic, which is 2 weeks before. I'll introduce you to everyone. Come and stay. And I was like, but James, I can't afford to go. I was just out of college. He said, stay with me. I'll introduce you. It's all fine. He was amazing. He introduced me to everyone in the paddock. I sat down, and bear in mind, I was used to painting mechanical objects with the Navy and Harriers and Sea Kings and Lynx helicopters. Sat down and started painting cars, and this chap called Jason Wright tapped me on the shoulder and said, when you finish that, can you come and paint my Formula Junior Stanguilini? I didn't know what that was. Went up to the paddock, painted it. He's like, right, are you coming to Monza? I was like, what's Monza? You should come in 2 weeks. So it basically started like that.
And then it just snowballed.
And he was amazing. Invited me to Spa, to Goodwood. He let me race his cars. I did the Monte Carlo Rally twice. I did the Tour Auto with him in a TZ. Had some really cool experiences. He took me ice driving. I raced at Monza, raced at Silverstone in the Pre-63 GT race. So not only was I painting these cars, but I was involved in them. I was traveling all over Europe with him, and it was just fantastic.
And you just got bitten by. So there was no interest. It's not like your dad was into cars or anything like that.
Not really.
No.
We had things like Range Rovers. He bought a Porsche when I was, I don't know, about 17, and it was an ugly car. I can't remember exactly what it was now, but my mother wanted to drive it, and she said it was too heavy to drive. It didn't really do it for me. Then he bought me an MGB GT to do up, but he was a bit lazy and didn't do it up, and it sat in the garage for years rotting, and then he sold it. So it wasn't in the family at all.
No, okay.
At all.
Okay.
But through painting at these events, that's when I started learning about these cars. And now I go to these events all over the world now, and I see mechanics who recognise me from back in 2008 when I started painting, when they'd lend me some sun cream when I was burning. I mean, I was such a rookie when I started out, and I look back at some of those early paintings and think, oh my God, they were so, some of the paintings were just, let's just call them very sort of subjective. But people were buying them then, and I'm so grateful to those people because they supported me. And over the years, obviously, everyone gets better the more they work at something. And even clients like Jeremy Holden, who runs the Holden catalogue, he got me to design the front cover of his catalogue many years ago. And I messaged him today about a recent commission I've done with the RAC, and he was like, well done, girl. So it's those people that supported me from the beginning that I'm really grateful to. And
you've got quite a distinctive style, haven't you? I mean, I'm guessing that most people, without having to look at the name on the painting, will probably know it's one of yours.
Yeah.
So when you were painting on the Royal Navy stuff, stylistically, was that similar? Were you painting in a similar style, or? Not
really. I was really not comfortable or confident painting in colour at that time. So the majority of my paintings were very much just black ink on paper.
Right.
They were lots of splashes. They captured the mood and the environment. And then I started getting a bit more confident using colour. But when I look at the oil paintings now that I'm doing, they are different. But I think people, as you say, I do have a style, and I think that comes from that real sort of reportage background of drawing what I see. but I'm drawing as it happened, as it's live. I can hear the noises, I can, smell the smells. It's all captured. It's not just I'm not creating a photographic representation, and I think that's what you can see in the work.
And you've got just a quick glance around what you brought along here. You've actually you have actually got almost two different styles, haven't you? Because you've got the
Monaco scenes. The
sort of Monaco scenes, which I guess are, as you say, they're not meant to be photorealistic, but they're equally they're not cartoonish or caricatures. Whereas you've got
my naughty car paintings.
Yes, your naughty paintings, which
yes.
I like very much, and they're just a kind of a completely different thing, aren't they?
They weren't actually my idea. I was at Pebble Beach years ago in 2010, and Alan de Cadenet said to me, "Eyal, you've got to meet my friend Stephen. He'd like you to paint his Aston." And I said, "Cool." So this chap says, "Yeah, but can you paint my girlfriend in the painting?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "But can you?" He was like, "So how can I put this? I don't want you to be offended when I send you the photographs of her." And I said, "Well, how do you mean?" And he said, "Because we're kind of into bondage, and would it be okay to sort of do a bondage theme?" So I was like, "Oh God, okay, fine." So I go back to London and I'm sort of sketching this thing for him to approve. And he's like, "That's great, but can you change the whip to a paddle?" I didn't know what a paddle was, genuinely. So I'm on Google, I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then of course, Google bondage, you get lots of ideas. So I put a little sex swing in there and all these bits and pieces. Anyway, I do this painting for him and I send it to him on email. And he's like, "Christ, I can't put that on my website. I'll have it in my office." I said, "Stephen, you asked for basically
a bondage
paint." Anyway, it was pre-Instagram, but it was on Facebook. I put it on Facebook, tagged a bunch of people like, Simon Kidston, Gregor Fiskin, lots of people that I knew, and it just went mad. And Octane published them, and I had people commissioning. I had one client in Switzerland commission 30 originals. And he just said, "Do whatever you like, whatever kind of theme." So of course, it didn't really come from me, but of course, as soon as I started getting these commissions, then I had to be, quite inventive and use my imagination, and they've been very popular.
That's a brilliant story. And is there one particular kind of style that you prefer doing?
I've done so many paintings of girls naked or semi-naked, kissing boys who are semi-naked. They're fun and I enjoy doing them, but I actually really am much more interested in doing my paintings, my big oil paintings. So I've just come back from Saudi Arabia, where I was commissioned by Martin Whittaker to design the poster for Saudi Motorsport, the Jeddah Grand Prix.
That's an amazing commission.
It was
that's very high profile.
He saw me. I was on my stand at Salon Privé at Blenheim Palace last year, and he came onto the stand and said, "Do you do posters?" And I was like, yeah, I do posters, but I'm used to, as I'm sure in any industry, you get a lot of people who just do a lot of talking. He said, "I'd love you to design our poster for the Formula One." I was like, "Great. Who's the decision maker?" And he said, "I am." I was like, "Oh, okay." Anyway, we went for lunch, and he was true to his word, and we organised a call soon after, and he flew me out to Jeddah when the track was pretty much, the track was built, but the rest of it was just a building site. It was quite terrifying with about 2 or 3 weeks to go. And he said, "I promise you it'll be finished."
Yeah, I remember. It was
I was like, "How is this going to be finished? This is not possible." And they did finish it. They brought in all these migrant workers at the last minute and they did the job, and it was amazing. So I flew out for the second time 2 or 3 weeks later, and I'd already done some paintings that I'd taken from photographs of the track, and he introduced me to literally everybody in the paddock, and I did a big 3.5 by 2 metre canvas in the paddock of a silhouette of an F1 car with all the famous landmarks of Saudi buildings behind it. And that's a 3-year contract, so I'm going back next week to meet up with some clients that I met.
And the thing about that is that, and I will never profess to be an expert in art, but I'm like a lot. But my dad was a car guy, so when I grew up, we had a lot of sort of Geo-Ham pictures around the house and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's such a great tradition, isn't it? Of Grand Prix posters.
Yeah.
They're
so cool.
They're cool. There's a comedian that I follow on. I occasionally look at what he's doing on Instagram and stuff, and in his living room, and I'm assuming he's not really into cars at all, but he's got a couple of old Grand Prix posters hanging in his living room because they're just great bits of art. And
It's like the Pullman galleries do those really cool posters of
Yeah.
summits and
Yeah.
you know, people skiing and racing. I just love them, and I think, unfortunately, I think a lot of concours events and race events, they tend to sort of use a style at the moment which is everywhere. There are some good artists like Tim Laselle doing a great job with that
Yeah.
pop art style, but there are a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
rip-offs, a lot of people using computer-generated imagery, which you know is fine, but I really feel like I can offer something different in that slightly older style, the more vintage style. But it's my own take on that, and I think that as much as you know AI and computer-generated imagery is fantastic, to see something that's hand done is so fantastic.
Gosh, that's probably a podcast all in its own right, isn't it? A conversation about AI and its impact on creative.
Yeah.
On
and it
so
can be
many
amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm for it in so many ways.
Well, I was working with doing a job with a photographer recently, and he said Photoshop now, the Adobe Photoshop has now got an AI button.
Yeah.
And he
And I only
said,
found that out last week.
well, he said, so if you've got a nice clean photograph of a car taken on a dry sunny day, if you via the AI button, he said not only will it create an absolutely perfect puddle of water in front of the car, it will
And a
also do a
reflection.
perfect reflection of the car in the water. And he said it just blows your mind.
Or you
It's
can
so-
take a picture of a bloke and then press a button saying I want him to wear leopard skin leggings, and he could be wearing some really nice chinos, and suddenly he looks very different. You know, so I've seen, that's the one I saw.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. It really is scary stuff. I actually, sorry, this is totally off topic, but I had an editorial to write, and I'd heard so many people talking, you know, journalists talking about AI being a threat to what they do. I thought, I'm just going to go, you know, I'm just going to say, please write me 1,000 words on XYZ topic. And, you know, 10 seconds later, I've got 1,000 words on this topic.
Have you done a poem?
Sorry?
Have you done a poem?
No.
Oh my God. So Jeremy Vaughan and I were at the RAC a few months ago, and I said, Jeremy, tell me a bit about your life, your daughter, your house, your cars. And he just said, oh, you know, I've got this, that and the other. And it came up with a poem in about 5 seconds, and he was almost in tears. It was like he was emotional. It was like, this is amazing. I was like, this is what it can do now. And actually, for certain things, I use it, and it's quite American. You have to change the text a bit. And
yeah, I mean, I think
as a base, it can be really helpful.
yeah, I mean, you can get
Save time.
you can get 1,000 words of editorial,
Yeah.
and yes, of course, you've got to go through it with a tooth comb,
Yeah.
and you're going to have to tweak it. But anyway, it's scary stuff, really. But you just mentioned Jeremy, a mutual acquaintance of ours, and the Royal Automobile Club. We've got a partnership with the Royal Automobile Club, RM Sotheby's, and that's very much built around the London to Brighton Veteran Car Run. And you are doing the 2024 poster.
Just finished it.
Just finished it.
Released yesterday in their press release.
So that's quite a scoop as well.
That was
Because there's
great.
a very good, I mean, the artwork for that event, there's a very long tradition with that as well, isn't there?
Yeah. So they contacted me a few months ago now, and they wanted a certain style of two Edwardian ladies in a car that had to be a generic car. So I had to sort of imagine a car. It needed a bit of tweaking. But yes, that was released yesterday. It's an oil on canvas painting, and the driver is looking quite determined, which I wanted her to look determined. I didn't want her grinning, you know. You don't get Sterling Moss grinning like an idiot driving around the Nürburgring.
Yeah.
So I wanted her to look determined and focused and concentrating and competitive. And I think I've achieved that. So they're going to be making...
Because lady, I can't remember.
It's 120 years of the Ladies Automobile Club.
That's right, the Ladies Automobile Club, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're going to be selling 120 posters, limited editions, signed and numbered by me, and they're going to be selling packs of postcards as well. So, and I think they're doing bottles of wine in boxes with my image on the front. So
Yes, I had...
I've asked for a couple of those.
I had a Christmas. They very kindly gave me a bottle of wine with last year's poster.
That would have been, I don't know the poster last year. Was it Tim Laselle, or was that a few years ago?
No, it wasn't. No, that Tim was the year before. I think it was. I don't know who did it. It was Genevieve.
Oh yes, I saw that.
Which was fun.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So that's so the original, is that going to go on display in the in the
I
club?
assume so. It's currently at the Framer.
Okay.
So I think Jeremy needs to put that somewhere very prominent.
Needs to go in the rotunda or something.
Just as you walk in, right in the centre on a canvas, on an easel. No, so that's all very exciting. And I actually did the London to Brighton for the first time ever last year with Bill Kleindert, who took me in his car, which was amazing. So I feel like I had the experience, which is lovely. And then I'll be obviously again there this year, signing the posters at the other end. And Jeremy was very kind last year. I was invited to all the fabulous parties at the RAC and also in Brighton. So
it's a very busy week, that week, isn't it? They do so much.
Pre-Christmas, it's out every night. Black tie events, party.
I know.
But someone has to do it, Peter.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the Jeremy and some of his colleagues actually...
They are machines.
They are.
And Ben Cousins.
I know. I don't know how they do it.
And I was having lock-ins with them in the bar, in the long bar, until like 2 or 3 in the morning. Then they'd get up at 5
to go running.
Well, Ben, yes. I'm not sure Jeremy goes running.
Absolutely mad. Now, here we are in Monaco, and one of the highlights of this auction, 2-day auction. So we had an auction yesterday that went rather well. Very pleased. Another auction today in about 5 hours. Now, the highlight is a collection of racing cars owned by Jody Scheckter, and we've talked about we talked about this in a couple of other recordings we've done. So I don't want to say I don't want to go on too long about Jody and this amazing opportunity we've got to sell his cars. But suffice to say, it is an amazing opportunity. 1979 world champion. Here we are in Monaco. He won 3 races in 1979 on his way to winning the championship, one of which was the Monaco Grand Prix. And he won that in his Ferrari 312, which is being offered for sale today, which I think there's a huge amount of interest in. I think it's going to go for quite a large sum of money. And you are going to spend a big chunk of this afternoon actually painting that onto a very
3 or 4 hours, I reckon.
3 or 4 hours
Yeah.
on quite a big canvas. So actually, one thing I didn't ask you when we were talking specifically about your work, they vary in size from relatively small to, big sort of, giant poster size, if you like. What do you prefer doing, the big stuff or the small?
So the smaller stuff is about 18 by 24 inches, and they are the pieces that I do live when I'm standing on top of the firm watching the race happening below me.
Okay,
I'm
that's
using
what you're painting.
ink on paper or watercolour because it dries really quickly, and I can do a painting in 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours, and then I can move on to the next one.
Okay.
The larger paintings in oil on canvas, they can't be done really on location. I'm quite quick. I've always had to be quick because I'm used to being in the paddocks and starting a painting and someone saying, "Hey, let's got to go out for quali,"
or an aircraft carrier.
Or So I do love doing the bigger pieces. I've been doing the smaller pieces for so long. The smaller pieces here are generally the limited edition prints because the originals have already sold. They tend to sell whilst I'm actually painting live because people are watching me and they're chatting to me. It's part of their experience, coming to Monaco, seeing the racing, and I'm there painting it. And so the smaller pieces here tend to be the prints. The larger pieces are the originals.
Well, I think we're gonna put you on a platform.
Yes, I'm going to be on the stage.
You're going to be actually on a sort of a stage. So for the people that are listening to this and not watching it, it's a big room. We're in a building called the Grimaldi Forum, which is essentially a function space, but it's lovely. We're not talking about this isn't Birmingham. It's
not the NEC.
It's not the NEC. It's by the ocean. Lots of glass around us, and the Jody Scheckter cars are all on a raised platform. So we're going to put you on the raised platform, and you're going to paint the Ferrari.
I am.
And we're very much looking forward to that. And I think, because there's been a bit of a debate as to what we're going to do with
really?
the painting.
Has there been any updates on that?
I think that we are going to present it to the man that buys... Oh, man, that's a bit...
The person.
The person.
It's not very woke of you, Peter.
I'm sorry.
Honestly.
I'm making no assumptions that a man is going to buy this car.
I've made the same mistake about 3 times this week.
An individual, whatever individual buys the Ferrari,
Yes.
I think that we will present it to.
Okay.
And we've got a few details to work out, but I think what we're probably going to do is when the car is literally about to be sold, we will.
So the painting has to be finished by then?
Yes.
No pressure?
No pressure.
Okay, so what time am I going to start painting?
You're going to have to get cracking quite soon.
5 o'clock? Is that when the auction starts?
The auction starts at 5.
Right, and when does the Ferrari come out?
No, I don't.
When does that go under the
I can't
hammer?
remember what lot number
Hammer.
it is. But you've got, you know, if we get you going in about an hour.
Oh, I'm going to start soon, am I?
Well, I think you're going to have to, aren't you?
Well, not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
No, it shouldn't take more than 4 hours.
All right, we'll work it out.
Yeah, okay.
We'll work it out. We'll work it out off air.
I'm just a bit nervous about the positioning of the canvas because that stage is quite narrow and I don't want to fall backwards. That would be quite embarrassing.
Be good for social, though,
It
wouldn't it?
might be. I might break my neck though, which wouldn't be great.
Brilliant for social. AL falls off stage.
Yeah.
And sober.
I know. Should be quite unusual.
Now, thank you very much for joining us. But there are two quite interesting things going on in this auction room that don't involve cars. One is your work. But our colleagues at Sotheby's have got an exhibition of fine gems and jewellery.
I'm very excited about this.
Owned by Dame Shirley Bassey. And
Legend.
That's coming up for sale later in the year, but it's on just because she's a resident of Monaco and she has allowed Sotheby's to bring the jewellery here on display. So, do you like jewellery?
I do like jewellery.
Yeah.
I'm not into like little pathetic sort of small pieces. I like big chunky.
You like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Show-stopping pieces.
And you don't not purchase from Argos. You want it.
Ideally not.
Ideally
no.
not from
No,
Argos.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So should we go and take a look?
I'd love to.
Let's go and take a look. So we'll be back shortly. Welcome back to part 2 of Sotheby's Car Show. Yes, I know it's called the Car Show, and in part 1 we've been looking at art. We're also going to take a slightly left field approach to the car show by talking about jewellery. Here we are, we're in Monaco, and behind us in these cabinets is a display of jewellery, and we're going to talk very specifically about the items that are behind us because they're very, very special and they're going to be sold later in the year. But I'm going to let my Sotheby's colleagues say more about those. So I'm joined, Aile's joined us, fresh from talking about her paintings. The lure of the jewellery was too much, wasn't it?
Couldn't resist.
You couldn't resist.
No.
So you're going to come and just ogle it and perhaps...
No, I want to wear it too.
Model it.
Yes.
Ogle it and model it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm also joined by Louise Greta. Did I say that right?
You did. Well
Okay,
done.
thank you. Who is the Sotheby's representative in Monaco, and Paul Redmayne, who is, I'm not going to say your full job title, but you're you're senior jewellery expert, private sales, based out of Dubai.
Yes.
Well, why are you in Monaco?
Well, we're here. We're here for these. Here for the collection we have behind us, and here for some over there that the people can't see. We have some private sales jewellery as well. So we've got some jewellery, some handbags, and private sales.
You're on a world tour. You're on
A world tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, heading up to Geneva tonight for our luxury week.
Okay.
So yes, this is leg one.
Leg one. Okay, so now there is a connection to the world of cars because before we get on to that, Louise, this jewellery behind us, who does it belong to?
So the jewellery behind us belongs to Dame Shirley Bassey, who actually lives in Monaco. And we are thrilled to present her collection that she's consigned to Sotheby's in a sale in Paris on the 10th of October this year.
Okay.
And so this is, the jewels you see behind are some highlights from the collection of the 82 pieces that are coming up for sale. I'm actually wearing 2 of her pieces. And
Yes, so it's worth saying, being a podcast, some people are going to be listening to this and some people are going to be watching it on YouTube. For those people who are listening, we've got something very visual that's going to be quite hard to convey. So as we talk a little bit about some of the items, I'll rely very much upon your mutual expertise in sort of describing a little bit about what we're looking at. Now, Dame Shirley Bassey, of course, I think for a lot of people, is very well known for having sung, is it 2 or 3 Bonds?
Three. She's the only singer to have sung 3 Bond-themed songs, of
Yes,
course.
because normally you just get one bite of that cherry, don't
Yes,
you? And then
exactly.
you moved on very rapidly to the next thing. Yes, no, 3, and famously, of course, one of which was Goldfinger. And in the world of obviously a very popular film because it's part of the Bond franchise, but it has the Goldfinger in particular has a very unique place in sort of movie history because it elevated a particular type of car to a very high sort of celebrity status, and that's an Aston Martin DB5. So much so, in fact, that quite a lot of Aston Martins DB5s that we sell, they're painted silver birch. Although quite a lot of them did not leave the factory painted silver birch. They were painted silver birch so everyone can look like James Bond, which I totally understand, but it's a bit of a shame because some cars left the factory in very lovely colours and had silver paint painted all over them. But we sold actually the car, the DB5 that was used in the movie, the gadget car with the machine guns and everything else. We sold in London I think it was 2010 actually, for a world record price. And we've actually sold, there was more than one car that used across the movies, and we've sold at least two for very sizable sums of money. So there is a motoring theme, and actually we've had a few Astons cross our block yesterday, which sold very well. But we're not actually here to talk about Aston Martins. But there is a very nice connection between the world of motoring and the world of Dame Shirley's jewellery. So because as I admitted before we started recording this, I know very little about jewellery in general. Mm-hmm. But I know even less about Dame Shirley's jewellery. So let's just kick off a little bit and just tell us. So in the cabinets behind us, this isn't everything.
No. These are the highlights. So it's fresh to us. So fresh, we don't yet have any certificates for any of the stones. Before it comes up for auction on the 10th of October in Paris, we will send the major stones off to the various laboratories to get the certificates. And so it's a work in progress still on that front. But we've got 18 pieces here of the 80 plus pieces. And Dame Shirley had this fantastic collection, which is a lot of the pieces are signed. So you've got by signed we mean they're from the major houses that people will know and recognise: Cartier, Van Cleef, Piaget, etc. And it's just a journey. It's fascinating to see this collection because it's a journey through her career. A lot of it was self-gifting. There are some pieces, for example, the ring that Louise is wearing here that was gifted by Elton John after Dame Shirley sung at one of his AIDS galas. And it's a Van Cleef ring from the 1960s. And he gifted it to Dame Shirley. This is one of her favourite pieces.
She wore it an awful lot.
Do we know how many diamonds are in that, individual diamonds? It's quite a few, isn't it?
Yeah. And so the jewellery specialists, the jewellery specialists, we will literally count every single diamond, and we'll guesstimate them. Obviously, we're not going to take these stones out; they're too small. But when you get to larger sizes, then we take them out. So the sort of the 1-2 carat type.
So at the moment, is it fair to say that the kind of the value estimates on all of this stuff aren't quite fixed yet because there's quite a lot of work to do?
There'll probably be a little bit of movement based on whatever the certificate comes back with. But something like this, we know roughly the carat weight. We know it's Van Cleef, and it's got this fantastic provenance: A, from Dame Shirley, and B, gifted from Elton John as well.
So Louise is probably rather uncomfortably now leaning forward for the benefit of our viewers with her hand on a lovely sort of velvety pad showing off the ring, and it is spectacular. And as somebody that doesn't know an awful lot about jewellery, even I can tell that that's quite a thing. But also, Louise, you've got something quite special around your neck as well, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Well,
tell us a little bit about that.
This is one of the highlights of the collection, actually, this magnificent diamond necklace with an estimate at 220,000 euros.
Wow.
Which I think is a conservative estimate.
Very conservative, I would say. You've got, we've estimated there's about 60 carats of diamonds here in this necklace. It's spectacular, very beautiful.
Wow. And Paul and I did a podcast in Geneva a couple of years ago, which was very centred around diamonds of various different colours, and I learnt more about diamonds in our 30-minute conversation than I'd learnt in the previous 50 years, so I really enjoyed that. But it's can you say anything? I mean, they're all going to be different. You've got lots of different gems, but if you're looking at, say, at the diamonds in that necklace, are you impressed sort of with the clarity? Yeah. So
with this, it's not signed, so it's not from one of the big houses. But but it's the colour of the diamonds. They're very lively, is how we describe them. So they're very sparkly. When you see it across a room from a distance, the light will be thrown back at you. You do get diamonds that are lower quality, that are more dull, and so you'll see it. There'll be a big look. We say they're bluffy, so it'll be a big look, but it won't be so lively, so sparkly. Whereas they're very, very high quality stones. And the colour, you see how white they are as well. So the diamond scale goes from D all the way down to Z in the alphabet. ABC doesn't exist, so D down to Z. D is the whitest, and Z is when you're starting to see yellow. After Z, you become a fancy yellow diamond. Oh. So they get more and more yellow, but from IJ down, you're starting to see the yellow. These stones are top grade, so these are DEFG. They're very, you can see, we don't need to send them to the laboratory to see that these are the finest colour. And if you take the loupe, the magnifying glass, and if you have a look at them, the clarity is very strong as well. So that's one thing, and it's the way that the assortment have been graduated down. It's a very gentle graduation down, rather than being small stone, too big, medium, small. It's very harmoniously put together, and then the articulation of the necklace as well, the way it moves, the way it flows, because it's got to sit well on the neck, and it's got to adapt to the contours of the neckline, and this sits very well, and you've got a lot of fluidity and articulation, which is it's sign of very good craftsmanship.
So when that was made, would each of the stones have been cut specifically to create that piece?
No, probably not. So what they would do, the workshop they would put together parcels of stones, and they will literally we call it a layout. So you get a layout, and they'll put it on typically in blue tack or plasticine, and then you just match. And so you'll start with a center stone, and then you match two up, and you go all the way around to the back. So aesthetically, you've got the harmony, and they match together. You don't want to have one that's too big, and it's nowadays people insist more. If you've got a 5 carat at the bottom, then you've got to have a 4.8, then a 4.5, whereas when it was done in yesteryear, the pieces were made where it had to just visually, it had to go together. And sometimes you'll get a stone that's deeper. So a carat weight is a weight of diamond. 1 carat is 0.20 grams. So it's not. I didn't know that. It's not the size. It's not the spread or the physical diameters of a diamond. So you can get a 3 carat that's deep. You get a 3 carat that's spready. So some of these you might get a 2 carat, and opposite it might be a 3 carat. Because back in the day they were cut. That's how they were cut. They were cut so visually, so the face-up size actually matched and just went all the way around in the top quality of necklace. Such as this one.
Did Dame Shirley, was that sort of a gift to herself? Do we know, or we're not sure about that?
I think so. Diamonds were and are still Dame Shirley Bassey's favourite stone. Needless to say.
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Diamonds are forever.
Diamonds are forever, yes, I know. I was wrong movie, wrong film reference, obviously. Al, have you ever rewarded yourself with a 250,000?
Not yet. That's the goal.
Is that the goal?
Yeah,
time.
There's time. Yeah, I think so.
There's no time like the present, is there?
Yeah. I was gifted a diamond solitaire by my grandmother before she died. And that was bought for her by my grandfather, who was always being naughty in some way, getting drunk at a party and misbehaving. So he would basically apologise with diamonds. And she managed to collect quite a few over the years.
Really? No,
so I've got one, and my sister's got one.
But actually, that's quite a good anecdote, because in fact, we can talk a little bit more specifically. I mean, there are clearly within this collection very, very fine pieces, very high value. There's also some jewellery here that Dame Shirley bought clearly just because she loves it, and it's not. You're not necessarily looking at the absolute sort of top grade items or stones, but that's part of the story, isn't it? When you're selling somebody's collection, that's first of all, people should only. And we say this in the car world. Don't buy a car because you think it might be worth more money in 10 years from now. Buy a car because you love it and you want to drive it, because that's what cars are for. Jewelry's for wearing, so buy what you like.
We say exactly the same.
Yeah.
Because if you buy only for investment, you're beholden to the market. Whereas if you buy something genuinely because you like it, the chances are there'll be someone else out there who likes it if you do want to sell it. And if you're stuck with it, then you've got a piece of jewellery that you enjoy and that you'll wear. And that's what we see in the collection here. You know, she's got some beautiful pieces, and they've all been worn. And because they all have that story, it really is the journey. And obviously, you see, I'm guessing with the same with cars, you see the journey of the collector. So when she started out, when she was younger, compared to what she was buying latterly, there's going to be a difference. And then you see the eye, you see the taste, you see suddenly stones come out. There'll suddenly be more emeralds popping along.
Her career spanned 70 years. So, you know,
yeah,
from the,
what a
from
career!
The beginning,
Incredible.
She wasn't going to start buying these wonderful emerald and diamond necklaces. She had a string of pearls that is so emblematic of Dame Shirley. Starting out in Wales, and that's one of her favourite pieces, actually, the pearl necklace that isn't here. But.
And of course, as a performer, she's known for being a very, not an outrageous performer, but very extrovert, you know, the hand movements and everything
Yes.
else. So I think it's probably fair to say that a lot of her jewellery sort of reflects that personality.
Show-stopping jewellery.
Yeah.
Show-stopping, exactly.
Yeah, very bold pieces, big pieces, signature pieces.
Why don't we have, as well as these wonderful pieces that Louise is wearing right now, can you get us something else? Because I think
Of course.
AL is getting a bit
I'm twitching.
Right.
Yeah.
In anticipation.
If she doesn't get her hands on something soon, she's going to kick off. I've seen it happen. Nobody.
But I like bling, like not necessarily diamonds, but something unusual.
Do you like colour?
I do like colour, yeah. I'm all about colour. You should see that from my paintings. So
Yes.
sort of really in your face. I don't like subtle jewellery.
No.
Not into that at all.
Oh, okay.
The
fair
bigger the
enough.
better.
The big-
Yeah.
You're in
I-
the right place.
Paul's having a look, for the benefit of our listeners rather than our viewers. Paul is rummaging around in a glass display case, and he's now returning to the table.
Oh, I love the
Couple of
box as well.
cases.
It's got a story.
Same.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, we'll start with
What have
this
we got
one.
here, Paul?
So this is a brooch. So it's in a Cartier box, and it's from 1905. The brooch itself is not signed Cartier, or it's not signed. It's signed as in stamped, engraved with the name of the house. And back
Is
in
it Cartier?
well, back in the day, they didn't sign all the pieces.
Okay, so you just
because
knew
they
it from
didn't
the
need
box
to.
it was
And the
presented.
fact that the box is absolutely made for this, the fact it sits so perfectly
Yes.
It's an
in.
unusual shape.
This is yeah, and the same as I've got to be careful because this.
Yeah.
And the same as for you, I love the boxes.
It's a bit of
it's
patina
the
on there,
stories.
isn't there?
It's the stories. And little fun fact. So Cartier is written here. They have 3 workshops: Paris, New York, and London. And whenever, even to this day, whenever you see a Cartier box, it will say London, Paris, New York, and whichever is the top one under the Cartier, that's where the piece was made. So this piece was made in New York.
Okay, that's interesting.
And then you've got the famous Cartier box, which is red. Now, back in the 1920s, Cartier was using green boxes. So they still had the same motif around the side here in gold, but they were green boxes.
Why did they change them to red?
Don't know. And they overlapped for a while. They were doing green and red, and then they went exclusively
Maybe red
to
is
red.
the colour of love.
Yeah,
Maybe that was
yeah,
it.
could be.
It's interesting that stone in the centre there, from where it almost has a little, like a blue tinge
Yes.
from where I'm
Yeah.
standing.
Yeah, and the stones cut back then, because I had a lady yesterday who asked me, what's the quality, what's the colour? It was a different time. They weren't cut. These are old mine cuts. These are older stones. They predate anything like the modern brilliant cut as we know it now. Came out in 1919. So this predates that.
So this is turn of the 20th century. So it's quite, it's an old
It
piece.
looks very delicate
I mean,
as well.
Brooches, of course, aren't typically. A brooch in general is not an item of jewellery that's commonly worn by women these days, is it? So, I mean, in terms of a piece like, and this is a very big brooch. Does the wearability of something like that have an impact on value, or is it just it's the material value of it that really is?
For me the value in this is the fact. Well, obviously I'll keep saying the fact it's Dame Shirley's is the provenance there is great. The fact it's Cartier it's not signed. We can't definitively say it's Cartier, but we can infer from the perfect way it sits in that box. It's Cartier.
And I mean, Cartier wouldn't have records.
Yeah,
they would.
Yeah.
So you,
yeah,
okay.
they should do. So
Right.
we could do research. We could give it to them, and they have an archivist who would be able to. And we do that quite often for auction pieces. We get them to find, and they'll dig out the original sketch. And they'll share that with us.
There are a huge number of individual stones in this piece, aren't there?
Yeah.
Do
And
you often show the jewellery with photographs of Dame Shirley Bassey wearing them?
yes. Yeah.
I would imagine that would be quite...
Yeah. And we have a photograph. I'll get that. We've got a photograph here of her wearing a necklace.
We've got an awful lot of photographs, that's the point. But we have identified many photographs that she has at her home of her wearing the pieces, and of course that really helps at a particular concert or an event.
Yes.
With, other celebrities.
But it's
So
also the
her-
stories behind it as well, like
Yes.
Elton John giving her the ring, and there must be
Yeah,
so many people that have
that-
gifted her pieces. Or
And it's interesting because, as we've said, she would reward herself after sort of a performance or they all have a very particular meaning to her, I would imagine. There we go. Her wearing. So tell us a little bit about this piece then.
So this is Van Cleef,
Okay.
and this comes with a photo of Dame Shirley wearing it.
That speaks of her personality, doesn't it? So for the benefit of our listeners rather than viewers, this is a necklace with lots of blue stones. So what are we looking at there?
So blue stones, the main stones there are turquoise, and we've got sapphires and diamonds in there as well.
Okay. In a gold setting on a gold necklace. Yeah, it's absolutely
And
beautiful.
this motif can be removed, detached, and it can be worn as a brooch as well. So you can either wear it as the necklace
That's clever.
on this
It clips
tubogas, or it can be worn as a brooch.
and are they matching
easy to-
earrings? I see. in
No,
the
this
cabinet
is
behind?
interesting. So this is a Van Cleef, and then these are Cartier.
Oh, okay, but they
So
look quite
similar style, similar
colours.
yeah.
So that seems like an extraordinary fluke in a way. That
There are no emeralds in that, though, are there? I don't think.
There's no emeralds, but
Quite similar.
you would absolutely imagine that was part of a set, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Do you think we dare let Ale wear that? Can we?
Of course.
What do you mean? Would you dare? I'm not going to run off with it, Peter.
Well, really? Can you guarantee?
I've got my eye on something else, actually. This is very lovely. Thank you. I'll keep very still.
There we go.
That goes quite nicely with the yellow jacket,
Yes.
actually.
Yes. Colour, you see.
Yeah. There we go.
There we go. How does it look?
Beautiful. No, it does look really, 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 really nice.
Do I need a matching ring, though, I think.
Matching. Well, I got earrings.
The earrings might be a bit too much, don't you think?
I think so.
Although,
Yeah.
can you be too much with this kind of jewellery?
There's
What's
something
she
else in
wearing?
here,
She's-
isn't there?
Yeah. So this is another necklace, and this
I'm
is
gonna let you open that.
Van Cleef.
I have a very bad track record of opening jewellery boxes.
So this is a necklace by Van Cleef, and
Tell us what
Dame
we got.
Shirley is quoted as saying, I'm not sure if it's this specific necklace, but she did buy herself after she
My stool's going down. Or
after,
maybe I'm just getting shorter.
after she performed in her first Royal Variety performance in front of Her Majesty the Queen. She gifted herself an emerald set after that. That we're selling as part of the collection. I'm not sure if it's this one, but there is an emerald necklace set that she bought.
Do you gift yourself things after you've had a good month? Or I feel like I need to
Not
start
yet,
doing
not
this. I'm loving this technique of rewarding
idea.
oneself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing an
We should do it more often.
Yeah.
Well, normally it's just a gin and tonic or something.
Yeah, no, I think you should step up.
I wouldn't go to Regent Street. So, what is the absolute highlight of the collection then? Is it what is it? It's what you're wearing now. It's the necklace there.
Value-wise, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
value-wise.
And is anything particularly rare or unusual, or
This Cartier, this
That's-
brooch, yeah. To have it in the original box from that era, that's pretty special. Certainly for me, that's pretty special.
just on the because I know boxes within the watch world, original box and papers is very, very important, isn't it? You know, it has a huge bearing on value. How important is the box to the value of that piece?
It enhances, like a buyer, like I think with the four of us. If we were buying something, if we were buying that brooch, and if it was in the original Cartier box from 1905, I think we'd be a little bit happier. If it was just there on a presentation tray,
And a bit of pitch and roll wouldn't
And
quite
it's
have
nice.
the same effect with it.
Yeah, and it's just
wrapped in
it's
some
nice
gaffer
to.
tape.
And it's for me, it's the story. It's the story of the box. Like, where has that been? It was made in New York, pre-1905, and here it is now in Monaco. What journey has that piece of jewellery been on, and that box been on? Has it been put in a cupboard for 20, 30 years? Has it been worn every day, every day, every day? Because the box is in it's scuffed, but it's in pretty good condition. So it's been looked after. And for me, it's the stories. You know, what hands have taken that piece of jewellery out there?
And when people come to look at these pieces and they want to try them on, I mean, I know people can be very funny about trying on earrings. Can people try them on that want to buy them?
Yeah,
or is that...
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. We have the little alcohol pads, so we can.
Because these look quite
tense
heavy,
them up.
so I think that would be something to take into consideration.
Yeah. Let's get the diamond.
That's a brooch. Yeah.
So Paul has
wow.
returned from the cabinets once again. That's an enormous diamond.
It is. This is we've estimated this at nearly 20 carats. So about 19.6 carats, and it's set with 2 Marquise diamonds on either side.
Okay. And what shape?
This is an oval. Sorry, it's an oval diamond.
Okay.
And then we'll send it off.
That's like you were talking about the grading of diamonds. There is a slightly yellowy.
Yeah. So there's some brown in there. There's some yellow. So we'll see what the GIA, the Gemological Institute of America, what they come back with, and depending what they do classify it as, that will determine our price.
Okay.
And so you can get diamonds have different modifiers in terms of hue. So you can have a yellow diamond, and you can have a brownish yellow diamond, and you can have a brown yellow diamond. So a brown yellow diamond is sort of 50-50 brown and yellow, but the dominant color is yellow. And you can get a fancy yellow-brown diamond, 50-50, dominant color is brown. And that's going to be far less expensive than a yellow diamond. It's going to be higher value. And then yellowish brown there's some yellow, but not too much, but brown's are dominant. And brownish yellow, there's both colors, but yellow's the dominant, but there's some brown.
Okay.
So this is
What
why.
did he just say? What did he just say?
This is why we send it to the GIA.
Try it on. Come on.
So put it on 20 carats. There you go.
Okay. Here we go. Don't want to touch it. I think it will fit. It's going to be one of those instances where I'm going to be like, going to the bathroom and
but it won't
I'm
come off
so
again."
sorry. Wow.
That looks good. Does that feel
Do you know,
like it belongs on
nothing
your hand?
else is ever going to compare to that.
Just hold it on
Is
still
it?
for a second.
Well, they say diamonds get smaller, don't they? Once you bought them, they shrink.
Is that right?
Apparently, you look at it, you think, oh,
Because your
that's too
hands get
small.
more.
And so you upgrade. Oh, that's too
No.
small. So you upgrade.
I think actually, having seen yours, I prefer this one. I mean, that is a showstopper,
Yes.
but that is just. Don't you find sometimes when you're talking to ladies and they've got ridiculous rings, you don't want to be rude, but I just can't take my eyes away. I'm sort of trying to talk to them and just sort of
Yeah.
staring.
But do you think there's also, I mean, this is just says more about me than it does about most people, I guess, is that if somebody's wearing a really enormous diamond, I think there's no way that's real. That can't be real. You know, because to the untrained eye, obviously,
Yeah.
to somebody that doesn't really know what they're looking at, because you just look at it and go, that would
It's
just
too
be
big.
Depends what's
that
parked
just-
outside their front nose.
That's
Yeah.
true,
Yeah, you sort of add up all the other
depends,
things and figure it out.
Yeah.
Situation,
Some
circumstance.
of the synthetic diamonds these days, you can hardly tell,
Yeah.
can you?
Yeah. No, we have to send them to the lab to have
How do you make a synthetic diamond?
several ways.
Oh,
So high heat, high pressure,
right.
and it's a contentious.
Right.
Do we want to go into this?
No,
one?
maybe not. No, I'm just
It's a
intrigued.
contentious thing
Okay.
for the industry at the moment.
Right,
Because
right.
you've got next generation coming through who are happy with the smaller stones. They're not yet making the larger stones in synthetics, but it's definitely there's a fork in the road in terms of the industry.
But is that very much different to a cultured pearl?
No, not massively in that. No, because chemically it's the same.
Yeah.
But then people ask us, and it's like the Monet and the Picasso. There's only one of the original, and when that comes to auction, the price goes crazy because it's two different markets. People
Yeah.
will buy the print and they'll have the print on their wall, but there's only one original.
Yeah.
And the same with the rarest, with the largest, the pink diamonds, the blue diamonds, the massive, the huge D flawlesses, and even pieces like this as well. There aren't going to be too many. To find a matched pair with that, another 19.6 carat oval of that color is going to be pretty tricky.
You kind of need to live in Monaco, don't you, to sort of feel safe wearing this? I was actually
Absolutely.
mugged
Yeah.
in Belgravia last year.
Don't go to Streatham then.
No, but I mean, I was mugged in
Same
Belgravia
reason.
last year, so it can happen anywhere. I feel like no one's going to sort of steal this off me here.
Yeah, you can leave your front door open here. There's no problem.
Same in Dubai.
So yes, indeed. So this has been fascinating. We'll wind the conversation up, but when we're talking about cars and we come to an auction and we do one of these podcasts, I'll quite often say to the specialist, okay, you can pick one car. Doesn't matter. It can be the cheapest car, it can be the most expensive, but what would you take home for whatever reason? Of what's on display here, what would you?
What's on display here? I think I'd take Louise's necklace. I'd take Louise's necklace, or I'd take the Cartier Panthère set behind me in the red case.
Okay.
High jewellery set in its original box. Iconic Panthère, Cartier. Big fan of that.
How about you, Louise?
I would go immediately for the Piaget watch. I love
Would
those
you?
old Piaget bracelet watches.
Yeah, tiger's
You
eye.
can wear it easily, it's very elegant.
Yeah.
And I'm not the type to go around with
Ostentatious jewellery.
Ostentatious
I am.
jewellery.
I'm up for that. I would go for the most ostentatious. I don't know what's in the black box, but the huge blue stones. What stone is that?
Oh, aquamarine.
Aquamarine.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Can I? Is there time to try that on or not?
Of course there is.
I
Of
need.
course there is.
I need that one in my life.
Would I say the wrong thing if I thought that looks quite Egyptian?
Yeah, no, exactly. This,
Okay.
I was just going to, and turquoise, one of
Yeah.
the main
Cleopatra.
places is,
Exactly.
Okay.
is
Right, I don't
Egypt.
like to say things out
Yeah,
loud.
no,
People
absolutely.
say, you idiot. That doesn't look a
You
lift
are
in Egyptian.
spot on.
Let's talk. So, Paul,
Oh,
you've
yes.
got us one
Right.
more piece before we wind this up. So, what have we got
The
there?
necklace
So
that I'm
here we
excited about.
have
Wow.
unsigned again. So aquamarine. So we've got aquamarine set.
Wow. Now that is.
This is
you
the
know,
business.
That's.
We're not
that's
messing about
extravagant
here.
jewellery.
Showstopper.
Yeah. This is the kind of thing my grandmother would have worn back in the day. It wouldn't have been as probably. It would have been more. What's the? It's not called fashion jewelry. What's it called when it's not necessarily expensive, but it's just.
Costume jewellery.
Yes, costume jewelry. My grandmother was
exactly.
massively into costume. Everything had to be big and brash and over the top.
So, I mean, who's the maker for this?
No one. This is unsigned. Yeah.
Okay. This would be fascinating. I mean, I wonder if Dame Shirley sort of walked past a jewellery shop
You just
window
caught my
and saw
skin
it
there,
and thought,
Louise.
I
Just
you know,
try not to
that's me.
scream
I want that.
in agony.
And it's the kind of thing visually you can imagine her on stage or at
Perfect.
the gala. It's so
Wow.
strong.
So, Paul, for the benefit of listeners rather than viewers, what are we looking at there? Because
So we're looking at there's a necklace,
going to reach across.
bangle,
I'm not gonna put this on, don't
earrings and ring set. Or
Yeah.
certainly the necklace, bangle and
I could
earrings go
technically
together.
put these on because
And they're aquamarines. So we've got
They're
these
clips.
emerald cut rectangular aquamarines as the centerpieces of the necklace and the bangle.
Okay.
And we've got some round aquamarines as the centerpiece of the
try
earrings.
these on. May as well go for it,
Floral
like.
design, very colourful. You've got some coloured sapphires and some diamonds around there, and it's set in this brushed patinaed yellow gold.
You get
it
the
actually, do you know, it looks better.
I know.
It looks
Yeah.
better on, doesn't
Absolutely.
it, than it does?
Absolutely.
I get it now.
Yeah.
I've
I
seen
can't do
it
it.
on.
Can you do it for me?
And
I feel like
jewellery
it needs to be
goes.
in.
It goes both ways. It
definitely
goes both
needs to
ways.
be
You look. Jewellery's not supposed to be sitting in a box or sitting
No,
in a showcase.
Yeah.
You have to try it, and we say to people all the time, try it. And it depends. It depends on skin tone as well, and on how they sit.
looks good
Yeah.
on
Like
it.
Ale was saying about her lobes, and it's pieces can come alive. They absolutely come alive, and how they sit on the neckline, how they sit on the arm. And it's wearing pieces differently as well, like the Cartier brooch. Yes, it's a brooch, but you could wear that as a hairpiece. You could wear that at the back of the dress.
Right. Right.
You don't
Yeah.
have to
Enough.
wear it in the traditional.
Okay, cool.
What did famously Princess Diana turned something into?
Yes.
She wore it around her head.
Oh, sure,
didn't she?
yes, yeah, yeah.
A necklace
Yes.
and wore
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, Ale.
That was great. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll send you an invoice.
And then this is the ring. The last one is the ring.
Oh, I have to
You haven't got any more.
No, actually, do you know what? That's a real shame, but I can take this off quite easily. That's disappointing.
That sort of, again, don't shoot me if I'm saying the wrong thing. But that looks quite Art Deco.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It also looks
Exactly.
quite small.
Yes.
Oh dear.
What the ring? Yeah. Dame Shirley has
That's a
very
shame.
small fingers. Very small fingers.
Oh, check that out.
There we go. Because it's a thinner band as well.
It's
It's very
slid
delicate.
on beautifully.
So when you get a thin band like that, the centre stone looks even larger.
Sorry, Paul. What is the stone?
This is aquamarine,
Okay.
set with diamonds on the underside.
Okay,
Very simple ring.
that's very nice. I like that.
Beautiful.
But, that's. I mean, it's large, but I like it. It sort of it's large yet conservative. Is that?
Yeah.
Subtly large.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Wonderful.
good. Well,
Thank you.
thank you ever so much. Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Ale, for
I'm just going
dressing
to have to
up.
take a few selfies for Instagram, just to know.
So remind us, the jewellery is going to be sold.
In Paris on the 10th of October.
Okay, and people need to check out the Sotheby's website, and in
Yes.
due course it will all be there, and people can register to bid, and you need to own something of Dame Shirley Bassey, don't you? Because you need to seize that opportunity. That's great, thank you. And she literally lives, 200 metres or so from
200
here?
metres from here, yes.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
okay.
You were having dinner with her the other night, weren't you?
Yes, I did.
was
We
quite jealous
organised a
about
wonderful dinner in collaboration with RM and Sotheby's in the yacht club, actually. And Dame Shirley was there wearing the diamond and emerald necklace, ring and earrings just behind you, looking $1 million in a green dress. And she's
Did
so
she sing for you?
fantastic. No.
No. You weren't trying hard
Amazing.
enough.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys,
Thank you.
good luck with the sale.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very
thank you for joining us on
Thank you,
being on a car podcast, talking about nothing vaguely related to cars. But I really enjoy these the most, actually, because obviously I get a bit tired talking about cars. But I always learn something doing these with you, some of these experts. So thank you very much.
Good. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, everybody. And we'll be back next week. Probably a bit more car related next week, I would imagine. But join us then. Thank you.